I have a moment here for you of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham having his hypocrisy brutally and instantly called out by a reporter during a recent press conference. He was actually kind of set up to have his hypocrisy called out with the initial question by this reporter. Really entertaining to watch. To understand the clip, though, I need to give you a little bit of context as to what is being discussed here. And we'll do so through this Rolling Stone piece. On Monday, President Joe Biden's administration announced that it will temporarily deploy 1,500 U.S. troops to support operations at the U.S.-Mexico border. Republican lawmakers who have been clamoring for hardline action at the border for months are outraged. And then it goes on to describe exactly what we're going to look at in just a second with Lindsey Graham. But as was noted there, what's going on is Title 42 is going to be lifted soon, which is expected to initiate even more of a logistical problem at the southern border. Title 42 is a public health rule that allows federal officials to turn away asylum seekers during a pandemic. So it has been getting used during COVID, but it will no longer be able to be used. And thus, like I said, there's an expectation that more migrants will be present because no longer will countless asylum seekers just be able to be immediately turned around due to Title 42. So in preparation for this, Biden is sending 1,500 troops to the southern border to assist border authorities. I'll discuss this more after watching Lindsey Graham have his hypocrisy called out. Take a look at this.
How are you on the administration sending troops to the border? We heard from Senator Cornyn.
I think it's ridiculous theater. It will not change the outcome.
Did you feel the same about it being theater when Trump sent troops to the border in 2018?
I feel that Donald Trump did the best job in my political lifetime. When Donald Trump did something, it worked. Everything he did, as Ted suggested, worked.
So Trump did the very same thing, and Lindsey Graham thought it was great. But when Biden does it, it's political theater. And before I give more thoughts on the more general conversation about this action by Biden and the southern border as a whole, to wrap up on Lindsey, the important thing to remember, and what this is a reminder of, is so many individuals that we interact with on a daily basis in politics, they just don't have principles. They don't have any principles at all. And they don't actually mean what they say. By the way, if you're watching this in YouTube segment form, as another reminder, I am sick right now. That's why my voice sounds like this. But because Republicans have been screaming about Biden needing to do something when it comes to the southern border, and now he's doing something that dear leader Trump did, you would assume they would be momentarily happy. But no, they're still attacking Biden because that's what it's all about. It's just about attacking Biden. I will note that I'm sure Democrats were attacking Trump for this action when he was president, and they'll be silent when Biden's doing it. Plenty of hypocrisy to go around. Different context, of course, with multiple more severe actions that Trump was taking, but still lots of hypocrisy to go around. Now, as to the action by Biden, what's hard for me about analyzing different actions taken on the southern border is we are so far from the solution I see as necessary that any action will have to be one of multiple bad options being chosen from. Meaning the southern border, as I've said, actually is experiencing real logistical and humanitarian problems. But because Republicans insist on only using this as a chance to demonize migrants and fearmonger about immigration, we aren't able to have a good faith conversation about solutions. Because if we're serious about addressing the issues we're experiencing at the southern border, problems that, by the way, have been around and dealt with by every administration in the modern era to different extents, we must be serious about a historically significant investment in our legal immigration system. We have to make it possible for so many more people seeking a better life to go through an efficient and logistically sound legal immigration process. And I agree, undocumented immigration should be prevented for the sake of the migrants as well. But the way that you do that is not by constantly dehumanizing human beings. It's by doing what I'm talking about, investing and expanding a legal immigration process. But as I've mentioned in the past, when under Biden, Democrats proposed solutions to the southern border that included the reality of more legal immigrants, Republicans were against it. That proposal, by the way, also increased funding to border security, but anything other than just that, Republicans will be against. I do want to note, by the way, and I just need to say this so y'all know, in case you're wondering why it looks like I'm struggling, to push out vocal noises with this particular situation with my sickness takes so much more breath. So I'm trying to push out the words the best that I can. But I do want to know, by the way, that a massive increase in legal immigration is 100% beneficial to the United States. Legal immigration, very much beneficial to the United States in so many different ways. Increasing that would be so beneficial. Ask any economist and they will tell you that the US is nearly in a state of desperation when it comes to both labor and population generally. I'm actually reading a book right now by a guy who's predicting in not too long, countries like the United States will be offering to pay individuals to move to their country. It'll be that much of a necessity. So what I'm talking about is a situation where people seeking a better life would win, and the country as a whole would win, economically and socially. So with all that being said, because we're so far from a world where Republicans would get on board with a massive investment in expanding our legal immigration system, we will continue to have discussions about a bunch of bad options being on the table, because we're about to experience even more of a humanitarian crisis at our southern border. And each and every one of the migrants seeking a better life is a human being and will suffer because of the lack of a proper system at the border. So Biden as president has to do something. And a lot of people are going to, rightfully so in many situations, be critical of really whatever he does, especially considering his border policy as a whole is looking more and more like Trump's. Which does kind of bring me to my next point. If you hear anyone say Biden's opened the border, or if we could just go back to Trump's border, then everything would go away issues-wise, they're lying to you. Biden's border policy is so similar to Trump's. Aside from a few improvements in the humanitarian category that have been good, notably not separating children from the parents, but largely it's been similar enough to garner a ton of criticism from progressive groups. The reason we've seen an increase in border encounters is so much more complicated than Biden becoming president, and does have a lot to do with the partial freeze in migration during the pandemic and a backlog created that now we're feeling the aftermath of as everything kicks back into gear, plus countless other factors. But the point is, it is entirely inaccurate to pretend Biden has opened the border unless you want to say the border was also open under Trump. And so repeating that over and over shows me you actually have, if you're one of the people who does that, which you're probably not watching my show if you do, but if you repeat that over and over, it shows me you have no interest in actually discussing real solutions based on the reality. So within the context of a situation where the real solutions that would have to be initiated in Congress to the overarching and longstanding issues with the southern border are dead on arrival, while there absolutely are things the Biden administration has done in regard to the southern border, even within that context of a bad situation, that still are incorrect and warrant criticism, and we've talked about them on the show. In this moment, in full honesty, Biden's in an impossible situation. He needs to do something, yes, for political reasons, but also to prevent an even more disastrous situation on the southern border if migration surges and there's just a complete absence of logistical capabilities to respond. And that will impact the lives of migrants severely. And in this situation, for him, it's choosing to send troops to the southern border. Let me know what you think of all this on Twitter. Luke P. Beasley is where you can find me there. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the extra bonus show on the weekends. And maybe if we get enough support, I can go get this illness checked out and figure out what's going on with my voice. You can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership.